Welcome, Bills Mafia. I am the Big O, Jerry Ostrowski, and welcome to the Overreaction Buffalo Daily Report. And today's Daily Report is April 21st, 2025. This Thursday, folks, is the NFL Draft, April 24th through the 26th in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And the Buffalo Bills roll in with 9 picks. And I believe it's safe to say that it's highly unlikely that the Buffalo Bills use all of those draft picks in this draft. And there's many national reporters out there that believe the Bills will use that draft capital to move up into the draft to take an impact player. And we'll talk about that today on the Overreaction Buffalo Daily Report. Brandon Beane has shown that he is not afraid to move up in the draft. He's done it before, the 48-year-old general manager. He's traded up in the first round on 4 occasions since he came in to take over the Buffalo Bills in 2017. The 2025 NFL draft will be Brandon Beane's 8th draft that he conducts as general manager for the Buffalo Bills. The Bills have 6 picks from rounds 4 through 6, and they seem likely to use those picks to move around in the draft, whether it be day 1 or day 2. And we talked about it a lot on the show. If the Bills stick and pick at 30, do they use their 2 fourth-round picks to move up into the third to get that coveted third that Brandon Beane wants, as they've got 56 and 62 in the second round? Does Beane go ahead and trade out of the first and move into the second? Possibly. But then again, that gives the Bills more draft capital. And then, of course, they would use that draft capital then to definitely probably move into the third. But it would seem kind of counterintuitive if you go ahead and add a bunch of picks when you already got a bunch of picks as well, because we know that if the Bills keep all these picks, they don't really have enough room on their 53-man roster to have all those players from the draft on there. We'll give you some examples later of what I mean about that. But just a little bit of history of Brandon Beane and moving around in the draft. In 2018, they jumped up to number 7 to take, as you know, Josh Allen, quarterback from Wyoming. And then recently in the 2022 draft, they moved up to acquire Kaiir Elam. And then the most recent trade that Beane made to move up into the first round was the following year, the 2023 draft. He moved up and took Dalton Kincaid 2 spots ahead of where the Bills were supposed to draft, jumped up in front of the Dallas Cowboys to pick Kincaid, the tight end from Utah. But if you look at Buffalo, Field Yates of ESPN, he reports that Buffalo is one of the teams that he has named, and a team that he's keeping his eye on as a possible trade-up candidate in the upcoming draft. So according to Yates, he believes the Bills need to find a cornerback to solidify that secondary. Now, we all know they just went ahead and signed Trey White. I still believe they've got to get young talent in the building at that position. What better guy to have on your roster than Trey White, a true leader in that locker room, a true veteran that knows the system, to go ahead and help bring that young cornerback along. But the Bills allowed 68.5% as far as completion percentage last year. Just not good enough, one of the worst in the league. And I would think, and also Field Yates believes, that a potential trade-up target for the Bills would include a cornerback. And just some of those guys that you look at, because the first-round talent of cornerbacks has shrunk. Okay, if Brandon Morrison was a guy that was a potential first-round pick, he's coming off of hip surgery. The cornerback from East Carolina, who was highly rated, probably a guy that goes in the teens or sooner, he has the ACL injury. He's going to fall because of it, because these are guys that are immediately not going to be available for any team that picks them. But Yates writes and names these players. He says if you want to go ahead and make a move, these players make sense to Yates to trade up to get. If you want to make a move to get Michigan's Will Johnson, that's going to take a major move up in the draft, probably above 15. Not sure the Bills really want to do that. Texas's Jahdae Barron, who is my favorite cornerback in the draft. He's highly versatile, can play over the slot as well as outside. you'd probably require to move up into the teens to get him. And then earlier Big O show, we looked at the draft capital list and just kind of where the Bills were and how much draft capital they had, and you add up the points. I think the Bills can technically get up to 15 if they have to. If Jahdae Barron slides to 15, 16, 17 in that range, is there a team there that will work with Buffalo where they can make that trade to move up to get a Jahdae Barron? And then you also look at Kentucky's Maxwell Hairston. We talked about him. He was a top 30 visit guy from Kentucky. He's probably going to go in the 20s. So you'd have to move up maybe at the max 10 spots, maybe 5, maybe a little more, a little less. If Maxwell's the guy you want to get, but you don't think he'll be there at 30. And then finally, the one target that everybody seems to stick to the Bills, a guy that's been projected to the Bills in a ton of mock drafts, is Ole Miss cornerback Trey Amos, who I would not be upset with if he was a Bill at the end of day one. But Trey Amos, you probably only have to move up a few spots. So to get that premier cornerback talent, if that is the spot that you definitely want, and it's not a guy like, it's not Grant, the big defensive nose, the big defensive tackle from Michigan, or Harmon from Oregon, or any of those guys, okay, or Nolan from Ole Miss. If those guys aren't there, you don't want to trade up to get them, and you're looking at a corner, those are where you're going to have to probably trade, folks. You probably have to move some stuff to move up to get these guys. Jarrett Bailey, who writes for the Sporting News, he quotes NFL Insider for the Sporting News, Albert Breer, as saying this: well, the Bills have shown they're open to a big swing this offseason, making calls on Myles Garrett and Max Crosby before signing Joey Bosa. So if you look at this conceptually, I wouldn't rule out something aggressive. I'm not sure this is the draft year to do something like that, but they definitely possibly could. Ralph Ventry of SI also writes, it makes sense for Beane to condense his picks into a couple of high-level prospects in the earlier rounds. And this is why. This is the example I kind of alluded to earlier in the show. Ventry goes on to say this: instead of wasting a day 3 selection on a rookie with an uphill battle to make the roster. So if you look at last year's pick, they take cornerback Daquan Hardy in the 6th round. He spent all of the 2024 season on the practice squad. Why waste a 6th-round pick for a practice squad player when you can take those picks and you can package them to move up and get a higher prospect? It just makes sense. So, use some of those picks to move up a few slots and secure a plug-and-play starter. That's what Ventry had to say about the Bills and their draft situation. So lots of possibilities, folks, but there's a lot of national chatter, national gossip, national rumors running around by some pretty well-respected writers. They feel that Brandon Beane has that firepower and has the capital to move up and go ahead and get that impact player at corner if that's what he wishes, or move up to get that impact player, that plug-and-play player at defensive tackle, like a Grant and Harm we talked about earlier, Nolan, one of those guys. So it'll be interesting Thursday night. Wednesday night on the Big O show, we will talk about just that. I will give you my favorite prospects, a couple of favorite prospects at the positions of need, as well as maybe a few outside draft picks that people aren't talking about that I really like. So we'll talk about that Wednesday on the Big O show. But remember, tonight on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, we will have the Overreaction Buffalo show with myself, John Fina, and Joe Miller. That'll be 8 Eastern time, 7 Central on YouTube. And then remember, the next day, that'll be on all major podcasting platforms, just like this show. We'll have it tomorrow morning, 10 in the morning Eastern time, 9 a.m. Central time, and then that show will then be on all major podcasting platforms, and you can check that out. So, folks, I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you listening. As always, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, review the show, tell your friends. Overreaction Buffalo Daily Show. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, and we'll be doing this year-round to bring you the latest news from the Buffalo Bills and One Bills Drive. As always, folks, thank you so much. I appreciate you for watching the shows, for listening, and all those things. As always, much love. Go Bills.